you a little bit about a question that a client of mine raised, which I found was very useful. So I'm passing on my response to her that I hope will be useful for all of you as well. And the question was, how do we know that we are not being delusional? When we are thinking of ways to outsmart the worrying mind, things like positivity or affirmations, how do we know that the things that we are telling ourselves are not actually, toxic to us? So this is a very good question, because whether it's anxiety or fears or insecurities, these days people take up a lot of what I like to call as mental chatter, the things you tell yourself, believe in good things, and Nike's famous line, just do it. And these are ways in which we become our own cheerleaders and sort of guide ourselves to positivity using affirmations, prayer. In fact, there's a whole industry around affirmations and how to tell ourselves what to believe in. So how do we know when we are being delusional, when we're being motivational, when we're being practical? So the answer is not very simple, because we live in a world that is increasingly forcing us to look at the evidence. It's asking us to be scientifically tempered, to be evidence-based, to be rational. So we're all walking around our lives asking, what is the evidence? What is the evidence that you love me? What is the evidence that I'm good at my work? And we are seeking confirmation in terms of, do I have sufficient awards? Do I have sufficient designation? Do I have sufficient money? So we're looking at things that we can show to others, or enough certificates, and sort of say it's not enough to climb the mountain, you have to have a certificate that says you have climbed the mountain, because we need to present evidence of our lives. And when we don't have the evidence, we're starting to call it delusion. So there are a number of ways to consider this. The first is, in the Hindu or the Buddhist cosmology, we consider the world itself a delusion of the mind, so-called Maya. But and the yogic equivalence as well is that it's a manifestation of the ultimate Purusha. In the psychological sense, it is also a projection of the mind, which speaks not so much to whether it is objectively true or truly exists. We take that for granted, whereas, for instance, in Buddhism, we say the world does not truly exist, but it relatively exists, and so we operate in it in a relative manner, which is what is a philosophical concept known as duality. So in the psychological sense, we speak of projection. We're not questioning whether the world truly exists, because we do take it for granted that we have a common experience of the existing world. But when we talk about projection, we're talking about how we superimpose our reality on the mundane, on the existing world. So while objectively there might be negative things happening, such as natural disasters, man-made disasters, things beyond our control, that is indisputable. However, the way in which we react to them is different, and this comes from our perception and our projections. So, for instance, however something is happening and some of us are not bothered in another part of the world, let's say there's a conflict between two nations, some of us feel, well, that's their problem, and some of us feel, how can we sit here with this happening on a daily basis? This comes from our own experience of life, or where we are from, or our ethnicity, our culture, whether we've been colonized, whether we empathize. So many factors sort of play into that. And but regardless of our personal opinions on various subjects, if you read the greatest survival stories in life, whether it's Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which he wrote when he was coming out of the concentration camps in Germany, released by the end of the war, he weaves an entire theory of therapeutic intervention and self-help based on love, coming out of one of the worst situations that until now we knew historically. And in fact, if you start reading and digging up experiences of adventurers and explorers, people who are subject to all kinds of horrors and captivity, colonization, internment, imprisonment, or even just being lost, the thing universally that seems to have helped them survive is their state of mind. In fact, if you even speak to doctors and surgeons about people who are terminally ill or who've overcome difficult diagnosis or disabilities, universally it is the state of mind. It is strengthening that hope, that optimism, and believing in their recovery when there is no evidence to believe in. So, Harold Ralston of 127 Hours, if you read the book or watched the movie, who had to cut off his own arm to escape from being, trapped between two boulders. Douglas Mawson survived the Antarctic expedition, the Kon-Tiki raft, Mauro Prosperi, who was lost in the Sahara Desert. Throughout, universally, or just Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, it's always the state of mind. It's always what you believe that is leading you out of a situation that is giving you nothing to believe in. Right? So what is strength of mind? You can call it belief, you can call it faith, you can call it hope, positivity, optimism. Why do we need it? Right? Shouldn't we all just believe in just what is in front of us? Well, to begin with, if you only believe in what you can see, touch, taste, smell, perceive, that is, you only believe in what you already know or what can be known. Okay, so I know there's a course I can go and take and study geology, even if I don't know anything about geology right now. So only that which is within the scope of the known, then you have a very sort of scant understanding of the universe, because what you're saying is everything that there is to be known about the universe is already known, and there is nothing more to know. So then there is no use for science, there is no use for exploration, there is no use for discovery, there's nothing more to invent. Which is, I think, reeking of a little lack of humility, and if we truly understand our role in this vast universe where we haven't even begun to explore the scope of space, we have no clue where the flight MH370 has disappeared somewhere on this earth. It's there, but none of us can seem to find it. So clearly there are things in this earth. There are constantly new species being discovered of animals, and we don't understand everything. We don't even understand pain. Have we been able to get rid of a headache? Have we been able to sort of cure ourselves of the common cold? So even you don't even have to have the most complex and unknown things. There are very simple things on a daily basis that we haven't really been able to solve. So we need a little inherent humility about the universe and our role in it. We're just one species in a vast and unknowable framework. There are limits to human knowledge and exploration, and we work with humility and curiosity to expand the scope of what we know. That's on a macro level. We have to assume there's a lot that we don't know. On a day-to-day level, we function with faith in various ways. So if we only operated on evidence, it's likely that we would probably not even get out of bed, right? Because if I woke up in the morning and I'm feeling tired and things are paining and it's raining and I don't feel like going out, I'll just stay in bed. There's no evidence that suggests that my day is going to go well, but we can't always do that. So we get up and we say, okay, let me have my coffee and I'll see how I feel. And then maybe I feel a little better. And then I say, okay, let me go for a run or a walk or do my yoga, and then I might feel a little better. And so we're constantly pushing ourselves. We listen to some music, we pump ourselves up, and we are adapting our mind despite the evidence. You go to a doctor and you say, I'm feeling this way, and he says, take this tablet. You don't know exactly what's in the tablet. You have to take it on faith that you've gone to this doctor because you think he knows what he's doing and he's giving you something. And he says, trust me, just take this tablet and come back. If you stood there and argued and asked for the exact ingredients of every single tablet and went and researched it and found the people who formulated the formula, we would never get anything done. So there are a whole lot of things that we have to take on faith on our daily lives. So in Buddhism, interestingly, in Abhidharma Kosha, which is the study of the mind, the capacity to believe is the 24th of the sense organs. It is a mental faculty, the capacity to believe. But why must we believe? Because belief is it keeps us in that state of humility. It helps us understand the world as slightly capable of our exploratory processes of holding it. We believe that we will be rewarded for our curiosity and exploration. But also because if all problems occurred in the gross or material plane, then they would be resolved in the material plane. And so there are two things. First is, if a concern or an issue was materially present, then everybody who experienced it would experience it in the same way. And second, it could be resolved by simply solving the problem. Let's take an example that there are monsters under the bed. So if you believe that there are monsters under the bed, then everybody who went into the room would see the monsters under the bed, and you could just solve it by removing the bed and removing the monsters. Now you'll say, oh, but I don't think there are monsters under the bed, and that's just a little child sort of fantasy. Okay, but we all have our forms of monsters under the bed. So, our monsters may come in the shape of relationships, it may come in finances, at work, at our creative blocks, parents, families, friends, whatever. We all have our own monsters. And the fact that we believe in them make them very true. They may not be very big for somebody else, but they're very, very big for us. Somebody may not have a fear of public speaking, but maybe you do. Somebody may not have a problem with having an arranged marriage. Maybe the concept terrifies you. Okay? Some of us get through a diagnosis of cancer with great courage. And some people just collapse when they have a fever and need 5 people to attend them. That doesn't mean one person is right or one person is wrong. It just means that each of us experiences our monsters in different ways based on our own mental makeup. So the reality of whether something is worrisome is not in the object, it is in the mind. Okay, so when you look at people like Viktor Frankl, or say the Dalai Lama, whose entire religious practice and basis and all his people have been exiled from Tibet, or Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Martin Luther King, who have all sort of spoken about compassion and kindness after living in such horrific things. All of us don't have the capacity for that. So what is the difference, or rather where is the difference? The difference is not in what has happened. Most of us, those kinds of things might never happen to so many of us, but so the difference is purely in the mind. So let's say there's an exam tomorrow and you're anxious. However, you studied hard and you still feel like to the point of you're feeling nauseous with anxiety, but there's somebody else who hasn't studied, who's going out for a movie today, and I'm like, okay, I will just wing it, and comes to the exam in a perfectly calm state of mind. We all have siblings like that. So if anxiety was part of the exam, everybody would feel the anxiety. Okay, but it's not, and the problem could be removed by just no exam. But that's not going to help somebody who's anxious, because the person who's anxious is going to take the anxiety that is superimposed on the exam and superimpose it on the next thing, which is, now there's no exam, what will I do? Maybe my certification will fail, maybe nobody will respect me, how will I apply to that university, etc. There'll be something else to worry about. So, we don't react based on the evidence of a problem. We react based on our perception of a problem. So if the problem occurs at a mental level, the solution also has to occur at the mental level. Okay, so say I'm going to have a problem if I'm single. If I have a partner, then I'm worried about getting married. If I'm married, I'm worried about the state of the marriage. Or maybe I'm worried about getting a divorce, or I'm worried about being single again. So in every stage that you are in, there is no ideal stage that is free of problem. The problem, the suffering, as the Buddha said, is entirely created by the mind. And so you need something to believe in. You need something to believe in, and I don't even necessarily mean God. You need to be able to have the capacity for belief, to be able to see beyond the evidence, because the evidence is going to tell you everything is hellish. Okay, because that is based on your perception. It is not an absolute reality. It is not an objective reality of a state of being. Being single can be held to somebody, being married can be held to somebody. the state of the relationship is not that which contains the suffering. It is the perception about it, the experience of it, that contains the state of suffering. Therefore, the solution can only be mental. Okay, so that is where our solutions have to come from. And if there are things that you need to tell yourself to get through your state in life. As long as you're not harming yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and you're not harming others, believe what you need to believe and cultivate the faculty of belief. Cultivate hope, cultivate positivity, so that you're able to use the mental solutions and create a positive mental framework to get you through your life. I hope this was helpful to you. Please do leave comments and questions, and it's always very nice to hear from you. Thank you for listening.